Welcome to LinesToGo installation videos. Today we will be replacing brake lines on a Dodge Ram 3500 using LinesToGo part number BLD-171-SS. While this particular installation is being performed on a Dodge Ram 2500, this set of lines will also fit the following make and models as shown in your screen now. LinesToGo lines are made using original equipment end forms and fittings that are CNC bent for an easy and precise installation. We have also upgraded to stainless steel braided Teflon hoses for rust protection and to prevent surface fouling. These have an unlimited shelf life and anti-static PTFE liner. This set of LinesToGo lines are made using 304L stainless steel for rust resistance that exceeds OEM standards. Tech tip: disconnect the battery before working on a vehicle to reduce the risk of shorting out the battery on tools or lines. LinesToGo lines are made with a sectional design for easier installation. We also use color-coded unions on our sectioned lines. Just match the colors at the connections. Make sure to depressurize the fuel system before starting the installation. Tools required: 8mm, 13mm, 15mm, and 22mm sockets and ratchet, 10mm, 11mm, 12mm, 13mm, 14mm, and 16mm wrenches, flat blade screwdriver, pick, cutting pliers, drain pan, jack and jack stands. The level of difficulty for this installation is considered to be medium. To depressurize the fuel system, locate the fuel pump fuse using your owner's manual and remove it. Start the vehicle and wait for the engine to stall. Make sure to replace the fuse once completed. Disconnect the negative battery terminal from both batteries. We have removed the driver's side battery for filming, however it is not required to replace the lines. At the master cylinder, use a 12mm wrench to remove both threaded fittings. At the ABS module, use a 12mm wrench to remove the two lower threaded fittings. Remove the primary and secondary brake lines from the vehicle. Next, use a 12mm wrench to remove the three remaining threaded fittings from the ABS module. Raise and support the vehicle and remove all four wheels using a 22mm socket. Use an 8mm socket to remove the driver's side front inner fender. Inside of the left front wheel well, use a 12mm wrench to remove the top threaded fitting from the front frame mounted union. Remove the plastic clips that secure the three brake lines together. Remove the first section of the right front brake line from the vehicle. Next, use a 12mm wrench to remove the threaded fitting from the top of the left front flex hose. Remove the left front brake line from the vehicle. Next, use a 12mm wrench to remove the threaded fitting from the top of the rear frame mounted union. Remove the top section of the rear brake line from the vehicle. Next, use a 12mm wrench to remove the lower threaded fitting from the front frame mounted union. On the inside of the frame rail, use a pick or screwdriver to remove the line from the plastic clips. Use a pair of cutting pliers to cut the right front brake line at the center of the crossmember underneath the engine oil pan. Remove the driver's side section of the right front brake line from the vehicle. Next, use a 12mm wrench to remove the threaded fitting from the top of the right front flex hose. Remove the remaining section of the right front brake line from the plastic clips and remove it from the vehicle. Next, we will need to remove the fuel tank to access the rear brake line. Use a flat blade screwdriver or socket to remove the clamps that secure the fuel filler hoses to the tubes and remove the hoses. Reaching in between the top of the frame and the box, remove the supply line quick connection by depressing the two plastic tabs to disconnect it. Disconnect the electrical connector from the top of the sending unit. Next, remove the return line quick connection by depressing the two plastic tabs to disconnect it. Place a support underneath the fuel tank and use a 15mm socket to remove the two nuts that secure the fuel tank straps. Remove the fuel tank straps from the vehicle. Lower the fuel tank while making sure to route the fuel filler hoses over the frame and remove it from underneath the vehicle. At the left front wheel well, use a 12mm wrench to remove the threaded fitting from the rear frame-mounted union. Remove the rear brake line from the plastic clips along the frame and cut the line at the center using a pair of cutting pliers. Remove the forward section of the rear brake line from the vehicle. At the rear of the vehicle, use a 12mm wrench to remove the threaded fitting from the top of the rear center flex hose. Remove the rear brake line from any remaining plastic clips and remove it from the vehicle. At the rear axle, use a 12mm wrench to remove both threaded fittings from the bottom of the rear center flex hose. Use a flat blade screwdriver or pry bar to open the metal tab that secures the right rear axle line. Use a 13mm socket to remove the bolt that secures the right rear flex hose to the axle. Use a 15mm socket to remove the banjo bolt that secures the flex hose to the caliper. Remove the right rear axle line and flex hose from the vehicle. Use a 13mm socket to remove the bolt that secures the left rear flex hose to the axle. Use a 15mm socket to remove the bolt that secures the flex hose to the caliper and remove the line and flex hose from the vehicle. To begin the installation of your new LinesToGo stainless steel brake lines, start by installing the left rear flex hose labeled 7988-01. Install one of the supplied copper washers onto the original banjo bolt, followed by the flex hose, noting the orientation. Add the final copper washer and start the bolt into the caliper by hand. Hold the flex hose in the proper position and secure it using a 15mm socket. Secure the other end of the hose using a 13mm socket to replace the bolt that was removed earlier. Repeat the previous steps on the other side of the vehicle to install the right rear flex hose labeled 8025-01. Next, install the right rear LinesToGo axle line labeled 06B into position. Start one fitting into the bottom of the rear center flex hose and the other fitting into the right rear flex hose. Secure the line to the axle using the metal tab. Tighten the fitting in the flex hose using a 14mm and a 16mm wrench. Tighten the fitting at the bottom of the rear central flex hose using a 12mm wrench. Next, install the left rear LinesToGo axle line labeled 06A into position. Start one fitting into the left rear flex hose and the other fitting into the bottom of the rear central flex hose. Tighten the fitting in the rear central flex hose using a 12mm wrench and the fitting at the left rear flex hose using a 14mm and a 16mm wrench. Next, install the rearmost section of the rear LinesToGo brake line labeled 05C into position. Start the rear threaded fitting into the top of the rear flex hose. Secure the line into the plastic clips along the frame. Install the next section of the rear LinesToGo brake line labeled 05B into position. Start the front threaded fitting into the rear frame-mounted union inside of the left front wheel well. Connect the two sections of line using the supplied union, noting the LinesToGo color-coded connection. Secure the line into the plastic clips along the frame. Tighten the union using a 13mm and a 16mm wrench. Tighten the fittings in the rear flex hose and the frame-mounted union using a 13mm wrench. Next, install the passenger side section of the right front brake line labeled 04C into position. Secure the line into the plastic clips. Start one fitting into the top of the right front flex hose. Next, install the driver's side section of the right front LinesToGo brake line labeled 04B into position. Start one fitting into the bottom of the front frame-mounted union. Connect the two sections of line together using the supplied union, noting the LinesToGo color-coded connection. Secure the line into the plastic clips. Tighten the LinesToGo union using a 10mm and a 13mm wrench. Tighten the fitting in the right front flex hose using a 14mm wrench. Tighten the fitting in the frame-mounted union using an 11mm wrench. Next, install the left front brake line labeled 03 into position. Start the bottom fitting into the top of the left front flex hose. Start the top fitting into the top rear port in the ABS module by hand. Tighten both fittings using a 14mm wrench. Next, install the final section of the right front brake line labeled 04A into position. Start the bottom fitting into the top of the front frame-mounted union. Start the other fitting into the top middle port in the ABS module by hand. Tighten the fitting in the ABS module using a 12mm wrench. Tighten the fitting in the frame-mounted union using an 11mm wrench. Next, install the final section of the rear LinesToGo brake line labeled 05A into position. Start the bottom threaded fitting into the top of the rear frame-mounted union. Start the top fitting into the top front port in the ABS module by hand. Secure the three lines together using the clips removed earlier. Tighten the fitting in the frame-mounted union using a 10mm wrench. Tighten the fitting in the ABS module using a 12mm wrench. Next, install the primary LinesToGo brake line labeled 01 into position. Start one fitting into the rear port in the master cylinder by hand. Start the other fitting into the lower rear port in the ABS module by hand. Tighten both fittings using a 12mm wrench. Next, install the secondary LinesToGo brake line labeled 02 into position. Start one fitting into the front port in the master cylinder by hand. Start the other fitting into the lower front port in the ABS module by hand. Tighten both fittings using a 14mm wrench. Bleed all four wheels using a 10mm wrench, making sure to keep the master cylinder reservoir topped up with fluid. Place the fuel tank back underneath the vehicle and raise it into position, making sure to route the fuel filler hose over the frame. Replace the fuel tank straps and secure them using a 15mm socket. Reaching between the frame and the box, connect the fuel return quick connect fitting at the sending unit. Connect the electrical connector, followed by the supply line quick connection. Reconnect the fuel filler hoses and secure them using a flat blade screwdriver or socket. Replace the driver's front inner fender and secure it using an 8mm socket. Replace all four wheels and torque to your manufacturer's recommended torque specification using a 22mm socket. Reconnect the negative battery terminals on both batteries and tighten them using a 13mm wrench. This concludes the installation of stainless steel brake lines on a Dodge Ram 3500 using LinesToGo part number BLD-171-SS. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or would like to purchase the lines you saw today, please call us at 1-855-781-5992. Email us at info@linestogo.com or check out our website link below. Don't forget to take advantage of our free next day shipping. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button below, and we will see you in our next video.